I used to be homeless, you know. I've slept under a bridge. I've slept under a bush. I've almost frozen to death. I've been so cold when I've gotten up in the morning that I couldn't move my joints. I once owned a house. I owned more than one house. I had a career that I made over 6 figures, but as a result of my mental wellness issues, I lost my house, and losing my vehicle, ended up being homeless. I was like a wounded animal, always looking over my shoulder because I didn't know. My mental health went downhill. And recovery was not even in the cards for me because it was just about survival. Well, I had got beaten up really badly and ended up in a local hospital after spending 2 years in an adult group home. I was eligible to get my own apartment, and so my recovery has taken a very long time.
Being poor and having a serious mental health issue is there's an incredible correlation with homelessness.
A lot of folks that have mental wellness issues are on Social Security income, and so there's only a certain amount of landlords that will even rent to people that are on SSI or SSDI.
So in the state of California, a person receiving Social Security for a disability, they're getting $845 a month to find housing. So in our county, the fair market rent for a studio apartment is around $920. So there's a real mismatch between what we support people with in terms of income and the actual cost of housing in areas like Alameda County.
There's only very few landlords that do rent to mental wellness consumers. And we need to change the way landlords perceive people with mental wellness issues.
I think people don't realize that 1 out of 4 people in the United States have a diagnosable mental health problem every year. It's very, very common. Mental health issues, unlike other health issues, are often beneath the surface for those that are looking at someone, and often that brings up a lot of resistance and feelings of insecurity among the housing providers, because there are often negative experiences with people who may have been in a crisis situation and they may have housed someone before, and then they extrapolate that one scenario to represent everybody with mental health issues. I'm always surprised at how many people are kind of overwhelmed in those situations where they had no idea that someone had a mental health issue or history, and then they disclose and like, oh wow, maybe all of my assumptions are wrong. Who else in my building maybe has schizophrenia and I don't know it? Because they're so focused on the negative in the media and in their own experience, and they extrapolate very rare situations to be the norm.
They think we're violent. They think we're going to tear up their place or not pay the rent or be incompetent to take care of our own matters. And so through that perception, they close the door in our face. They're not going to rent. There's prejudice in renting because they're scared and they don't know. And so we have to educate. I'm not incompetent. I can take care of myself. If you look around my house is clean. My house looks like a house that anybody else would be living in. You know, I've never given a landlord a reason why not to rent to me. You can't tell by my house that I'm a mental health consumer. You can't tell. Come on, little plant.
So one way in which discrimination comes up is the way in which those individuals are talked to. So when the manager calls them to come in for an interview, speaking to them in a sort of patronizing, paternalistic tone because they have a mental health issue, or asking that they bring in a service provider with them, just making assumptions about people based on self-disclosure. So they'll ask for evidence that they're taking their medications. Well, you know, apartment manager is not supposed to be able to ask someone, are you taking your medications?
I have been in a living situation where employees talk about us of being crazy. That doesn't help my recovery.
I choose to rent to people with mental health issues because they are people and they deserve housing. My grandmother on my father's side struggled with mental health issues. So I was personally affected by the struggles and the challenges. You go at it with the mindset, I'm trying to help this person retain housing. So I'm gonna do whatever I can to work through their challenges, give them the support they need, and don't give up so easy. So if you can link property management with services to work together to deal with issues that residents may have, you know, newly transitioning into a property, you try and give as much support as you can. You want them to succeed. I try to treat people fairly, with compassion, and keep their dignity.
Having good housing is a basic human need.
And I think training housing providers on what questions are appropriate and not appropriate to ask, and how to treat everyone with respect and dignity and be welcoming, regardless of how someone may initially present themselves, those would go a long way. So a lot of the behaviors that landlords exhibit in screening are just flat out illegal, and they need to get more education about that.
We don't take any different measures for somebody that may have a mental health issue. That's not something that is a part of our selection criteria. Are you suffering from mental illness? What that is, that's not questions I would ask.
So one simple thing that we're trying to do in Alameda County is encourage housing developers to let people tell their stories when they apply. So if they don't meet the stringent criteria, what about their life situation may have changed? If there's something in their past that may reflect negatively on their credit history or their eviction history.
We have weekly house meetings. Well, we all sit together, clinician staff, management, and residents, and we talk about the previous week, how things went, were there any issues, and we kind of have an open dialogue.
And I think if landlords would open their hearts and their doors and allow more Section 8 housing certificates or shelter plus care certificates, that would be helpful in housing a whole lot more of the homeless people that are out on the street today. We want landlords to treat us like they would any of their other tenants.
I think you have to treat every individual by case basis. Look at their history. Had they been a good resident? Have they paid their rent on time? Have they followed the rules? And that's how you have to judge any individual. Give people time, give them support, take into consideration that there is going to be an acclimation period.
So we're just part of the mainstream of the community, and that's what landlords need to know. We're just part of the mainstream. We're no different. We're no better. We're no worse.
What do we want to do? Do we want to just shun these people to the side and just forget about them? You can't do that. You know, you can't forget about people. You know, everybody has a right to housing.
I come into my house every day. Sometimes I have to bite myself to see if I'm dreaming or not. That's how good it feels to have my own place. I feel free. I feel whole. And I have a lot of gratitude. I have a lot of gratitude.